Namaste, and first of all, I am happy that the initiative you have taken to touch upon a subject which is rarely spoken of because we have a tendency to see finished products. In fact, we look for finished products. People are in the ashram, sadhaks, or Auroville, or anywhere in the world. But even when we look at, half finished products which may dazzle the eyes, we don't know what they have gone through. So the journey is very interesting. And when you read accounts of Sri Aurobindo and the mother dealing with their disciples, it is so interesting and fascinating. And I don't want to mention those stories because it's as if, we are trying to touch upon their difficulties and challenges. But we will talk about it in the broad framework, and the framework starts this way that as a psychiatrist, now before people are taken into the ashram, we have to do their health checkup whether they are physically and psychologically fit. Being on the other side of the table, so I ask this one question instead of examining all those things. I ask people, "Are you normal?" So, so only one person gave me the answer that I was looking for, and the person said, "If I were normal, I would not be here." So now, there is a truth in this. In the sense, what we regard as normalcy is somebody who is already well integrated with the society, with the way of life that is. I'm not going into the many aspects of normalcy, but one is integrated, and that's what we call as normal. You pursue normal aims, you pursue the normal round of life, which is a life of desires, maybe in moderation, a life where you take care of yourself, do a little bit for the society, maybe read a few religious books, have some kind of a working belief, the bourgeois ideal, if I may say so, and that's what is regarded as a normal life. But there are those who are not satisfied with this so-called normal life. They may have everything, and yet they are not satisfied. So that's where the seeker starts. Why do we seek? Because the framework doesn't give us that complete satisfaction. This total satisfaction may be missing either in terms of intellectual framework through which we need to navigate in life, or it may be emotional, or it may be the environment and milieu in which we live in. Now it is here that I would like to point out that people take one of the two routes. One is the unfortunate one where they just become rebels. You see, the 60s, as a result of this intense pressure of the supermind, people started becoming dissatisfied with the framework. So that's when, these songs came, "We Want No Education." There was especially counterculture movement in the West, the hippie movement. But unfortunately, they just started breaking the norms without building something new. So there is a stage in which human beings pass through when they are not fitting into the norm. And there is a new subjective self which is emerging. Sri Aurobindo spoke about it as the subjective stage, where you want to assert that, well, this is me and I want to express myself, whichever way. And this subjective self has neither the knowledge nor the power nor anything. And that's when people may take one route, which is a route of revolt. They start doing things which is just not socially acceptable. Now, they don't want to conform, so they become non-conformist becomes the new norm. Now, that's not a seeking. That's simply you break the norm without arriving at something higher. But, normal comes from the norm. You're part of the norm. So they're not part of the norm. So they are not abnormal. But they're too satisfied with that state. They just think that, breaking a norm is enough. But there are others who take a different line, which is what is important. They begin to seek. This framework doesn't satisfy me. Is there something more, something greater, something more beautiful? So to start with, these people are those who are not fully satisfied with the world and its ways. So if you talk to them at one level, you may feel that they are not quite normal in one sense of the word. I can share something about my own life. When I used to, as a young Air Force officer, I have everything that I can imagine. The best of medical college, immediately you become a serving officer, and you have all these parties and drinks and everything. But I used to feel that, what is this life? This is not what I really want. But they were my fellow mates who were very happy. They're very happy that, at a young age they are this and that, and they will become, they already had their career graph in front of them. That, so and so will become Air Vice Marshal, somebody will leave the forces and get so much money. And I used to wonder what's the big deal about it. So there is an existential crisis which many of them pass through, and there is a spiritual reason for it. See, the ego must reach a certain degree of development to take this spiritual life, and the mother speaks about it as individualizing. A person who is not individualized, who is running the way of the masses, who is driven by the mass goals, mass aims, mass way of life, cannot think for oneself, is not really ready for spiritual life. Many of the so-called religious and quasi-spiritual movement, if I may say so, are really not spiritual. At bottom, they are another kind of mass movement. So, people will go, they will do dapli, they will go sit and they say, Babaji, Babaji ki jai. At the end, they are completely unchanged. There is no seeking inside. Most of the time, they will go to a place for mannat puri karna and, satisfying some desires. So, first we must know what really is a seeking and what truly is a spiritual life. Because, or even without being spiritual, one is seeking for something more, something greater. So, these seekers are those who, to an extent, are becoming individualized, but at the same time, because of this individualization, they are within the prison of the ego. The same ego begins to appear like a prison, it stifles them. It's like the bird has grown inside the cage. That story of King Satyavrat and Manu and that fish, which is becoming bigger and bigger. So they are becoming bigger and bigger inside, but they don't know which way to go. They feel stifled in the world as it is. Then some people, because of this, take another route. They take to a monastic kind of life. They withdraw into some asceticism. That is also not it. That seeking can end there, very unfortunately. There are people who go to a monastery, join a monastery, because they are not fitting into the world. But there again, just like one route where it finishes is when they just revolt for the sake of revolt. Another where it finishes is where they, let's say, for example, join an ashram. So the moment you join an ashram, Sri Aurobindo ashram is still okay, you are not given any tag. But there are ashrams where you are given a dress, you are given a Sri Swami or something in the beginning and Anand at the end. So you start believing that you have found. Or some people who have read a lot believe they have found. So to keep the flame of seeking alive is a big challenge. People may even get into the same old grooves of ego, ambition, same patterns of behavior as outside. So the path is not as simple as it appears, because when you enter into a true seeking, not just a mental seeking is satisfied with mental answers, but a true seeking. Now, in a true seeking, there are many challenges will come our way. So, first challenge is from nature itself. There were things which we were doing, we thought are quite cool. For instance, anger is still, one can realize the defect. One is just, indulging in food. Also, anger one justifies that, well, because somebody is like that, therefore I got angry. Now those planks start being taken away from you. You have no justifications. You can't say anger is justified. Even if somebody is abusing you, still you are not supposed to be angry because you are the sadhak, not the other person. And that's how, you have letters of Sri Aurobindo. He says, you are the one who is practicing sadhana. When there are children who would would be very annoying, and the teacher went and complained to the mother, mother said, but they are not doing sadhana. You are expected to do yoga. So, there is a new challenge which comes, which we don't experience in ordinary life. By ordinary life, I mean that life which has ordinary aims. It may be a very difficult life, but the aim is still small. The moment you want to reach out to the skies or climb Mount Everest, then the challenges are very different. In the beginning, you will have everything that anybody else has. But as you begin to climb, the same things which you felt were normal begin to appear abnormal. And they are, because they drain us, they pull us back. One realizes that, well, my meditation is not good if I, indulge in these activities. If I have a heavy meal, if I am angry, it spoils, it robs me of whatever I may have gained. So the same normal nature begins to revolt against us, and it is one level of difficulty and the challenge that a seeker faces. This question about, do seekers face difficulties? Now, most seekers learn to navigate, they understand, they they burn the bridges of justification, they try to study, they use the discerning mind, and they focus on the growth of the psychic being, on the positives which can fight the negative, rather than just getting engaged with the negative. That's one recommendation, that when you face the difficulties, don't get into a constant fight with the negatives. Build the positive. That's why Mother and Sri Aurobindo said, build a basis of calm, peace, equanimity. Samata is, I think, the name of your program, so that we can much better, we can blunt the edge of these attacks. But then this is not enough. As we advance on the path, initially it was just what we called as normal nature. Then there are adverse forces. They try to challenge us. Why? Because they want to see whether we are really sincere or not. It's very easy to start a journey. Many start a journey. That's why it is said, many are called, few are chosen. So there are many who come, they start the journey very nice. It's like a party. Everybody is very happy that now I am entering a spiritual path. Sometimes it itself can give a big boost to the ego. See, one has to be so careful. There are people who join the ashram and feel it's an elite's club. Mother has spoken about it. Now I'm an elite, I'm a candidate for supermanhood. Not realizing that you have dug a ditch right there. So there are so many ways these adverse forces can come and completely cloud the mind. And that's why a reliance on the Guru, the Master, surrender, and constantly in today's context, reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo. People don't even read, they don't know this is the way it comes. They are driven by ambition, they get some, big rewards and they feel, oh, Mother has chosen me. Not realizing that this itself is the lure of the adverse forces. And so one has to be very careful, vigilant as the samurai. This is as I said, one was the bourgeois ideal, this is a samurai. So what is a samurai doing? Samurai is vigilant. In ancient schools, there was a lot of initiation. You have to be seen whether you are ready for the path or not. So we have that story of a man who joined a school of martial arts, fencing, sword fighting. And he joined thinking that I am going to become a samurai now. But for the master sent him there to cook in the kitchen. So he thought, what is this? He thought maybe in just few days I have to replace somebody. So he learnt about the kitchen, but his mind was with the sword fighting. So then slowly, as days rolled by, he started wondering, now the master will give me the dress, now the master will give me the sword, but nothing. By then 3 years passed and he forgot all about why he has come. He was content with the kitchen work. And then one day the master comes and gives him a nice whack with a wooden sword. And he gets angry, but seeing it's the master, he becomes quiet. Then after some time again the master comes and he starts getting angry, becomes quiet. After some time he becomes so vigilant that the moment the master would step inside the room, he would wake up and become vigilant that I am not supposed to become angry and I have to just face the sword. That is the day when master said, now you take the real sword and come out. So there is a long passage, preparation. So spirituality is not like a McDonald's, those fast food spirituality where you are given 14 days course. We should be very, very careful. These things are feel-good factors. Let off some money from the pocket, it's a different thing. But real spirituality always was something which was meant for the courageous, meant for the heroic soul. Another story of a man who goes for initiation, the master says, come, let's play chess. So he is a chess expert. So he says, okay, fine, that's okay. So he says, but remember one thing, whoever loses, his head will roll off. So now he is playing chess with all his concentration. So he learns concentration. Then the master is also playing. Both are good. Then deliberately the master makes some mistakes and he reaches a point where he can now win. Now that's where he ponders that, well, if I win, the master is going to be killed. But is it really good? My life is not really worth it. My master is initiating so many. Now why should I really win the game? And he deliberately makes a move to lose. And the master notices it. He puts away the chess and says, now you come in, you are ready for being initiated because you have the compassion. So there are some attitudes and qualities which have to be developed. That's why we see the mothers, those 12 petals. It's not like I learn a technique and I get it. Those who are looking for that kind of thing are really, who are not ready to go through the labor. So the mother says in this yoga, there is nothing like a pre-initiation test. But once you are in it, there are several ways the test will come. Sometimes you are at once being tested as well as you are an examiner. And she says, but do not think you are examining anybody. It's dangerous. Always be humble. So humility, vigilance, sincerity, they prevent us. These forces will come and suggest quietly, you are a great fellow, And then if we receive and accept that suggestion, forget that all greatness belongs to God. We are opening a door to disaster. Even if disaster doesn't come, we have missed the aim. Or they will do other ways. will not be able to overcome a difficulty, challenge, and they will tell you, you are unfit, you are in the wrong place, you have made a wrong choice, as if, the one who called us made a wrong choice. That's when we have to remember so many letters of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. What we have to say is that, well, I'll keep on putting my little effort or whatever effort I can till my last breath. Who knows when this is going to succeed? That 100th monkey or that last stroke which opens the door. So a lot of perseverance, patience is required in the path. So one should focus on cultivating these qualities. And many experiences will come just to strengthen these parts in our nature. People who are running about that, no, I must need time for meditation, I am not getting time for meditation, are not realizing that they are actually losing the opportunity that life is giving. The mother speaks of this in one of her early prayers, that the hours spent in contemplation are important because union is realized, but equally the hours when we go through life, and when we go through life we have to become humble, the elements have to become more supple, more plastic to the touch. So for the one who is vigilant, vigilance is not to lose an opportunity to progress. Somebody yelled at me, it's very easy to get angry. But somebody yelled at me, that's the time how I respond, that's my vigilance. So it develops over a period of time. It's not like it's this way or that way. But in yoga, there is a third level of challenge, not only the universal forces of nature, not only the adverse forces. Adverse forces will try to, show a small thing very big. Even in outer life, events, circumstances, suddenly you have a headache and they will come. In normal life, many people, they'll say, oh, it's a headache, it'll be okay. But in yoga, suddenly they will suggest it could be a tumor. They will push upon one little spot of fear and aggrandize it. So that's when we have to understand that, well, tumor or no tumor, I am in the hands of the divine physician. So that's how one has to navigate. That's why surrender is so important. Then the third level is hostile forces. This is where, usually due to some vanity in the being, mostly because of vanity, or strong ambition or perverse lusts. That's why these are 2-3 things one has to be very careful about. The mother speaks about a perverted sexuality. Then she speaks about excessive ambition in the being. Then she speaks about vanity. And then most important, the worst impurity is fear. So there is a whole period of purification when these things will be purged out of nature and the sadhak has to go through enduring them. In ordinary life, they are all put under a nice cover. Everybody believes they are very good. And to make us look good, they wear nice dresses, speak very chaste English, and come and behave in a certain way. And everybody believes they quote from, Swami Vivekananda and this and there. And you may be, or, they may look like Babaji or Swamiji. And you can be easily carried away. It's a show, a sham, a facade, which won't last for long in spiritual life. Sri Aurobindo particularly cautions against it. Hypocrisy, show, sham, you have to be like a baby, like a child newborn to the Divine Mother, who is always ready to progress, who knows that whatever one may have achieved, whatever one may have experienced, there is so much more wonders of the spirit awaiting the disclosure. So these are the different challenges one faces, but there is a fourth level of difficulty, to say the least, even when we have successfully negotiated through all these challenges. Then our being begins to become wider and wider. We enter into cosmic consciousness, big word, but well, we do, and one becomes the representative of a cosmic difficulty and a cosmic possibility. So let's say in ordinary life there is, let me put it semi-humorously. Some people believe that, great men don't make mistakes. Well, great men make great blunders because whatever they do will be in proportion to their height. And there are so many examples that somebody made one blunder. I put it like this. As a commoner, you can discuss, now there is a crisis going on in Sri Lanka. You may say, one should do this, one should do that, and it's okay. But if you are the head of a state and you make a blunder, you may be killed by it. So as we rise, we have to actually keep growing in sincerity and surrender. So one has to remember that the higher we rise, the more humbler we should become. And sign of surrender is that we become humbler. We begin to depend more and more on the divine. And therefore, when the being grows into wideness, more and more challenges, difficulties of others, those who are near us. That's why it's so important to be clear about the company one keeps. These challenges come, vital interchanges, all kinds of company, all is one, all is good, all kinds of confusions in the mind. So we have to be very careful, because now our being is not circumscribed, and all that is around us, those things begin to enter our being, like rivers pouring into an ocean. And then we have to handle, in addition to our own difficulties of the world as a representative. And then finally, even when we have navigated through all this, the last bastion of difficulty is matter and the subconscious, which is the repository of habits. So we think we have conquered something. Well, wait, they are in the subconscious. The psychic has come out, they are all hidden. But when we advance beyond a point and the higher consciousness opens, they suddenly come up. You see, in all spiritual literature, the last battle is between Indra and Vrittasur. He's a deadly fellow. Last battle, he besieges the whole city, drowns it with waters. The city of life. So that's why it's so important to have within oneself the heroic warrior who doesn't succumb, who is ready to face all kinds of challenges and difficulties. That's why in this yoga, Sri Aurobindo would not take anybody and everybody just like that. In fact, in any yoga, because yoga is an unprecedented adventure. It's an adventure which people have hardly undertaken, very few. It's easy to talk about yoga, but very difficult to practice it, because at every step there would be challenges. In normal life, if there are some challenges, in yoga there are actually 10 times more. But then the divine grace and the divine strength that come with us, that's the big delight. And that's why when people would run away from life and come here to ashrams, the mother would laugh and say, "Why have you come?" "We have come seeking peace." And she would say, "Go to Tiruvannamalai, to Raman ashram." She said, "If you come here, difficulties will increase, they will not decrease. Because it's a yoga of change of nature. Liberation itself is not an easy path. Sri Aurobindo says there is no yoga which is easy, like French made easy or French without tears. You see, in old time yogis, when they used to do yagna, the asuras, rakshasas, pishacha will come. Your close friend will tell you something. "Arey, come yaar, we'll just have now we are free beings, little bit, how does it matter?" Should be so careful. But in the end, who goes through all this? Mother says very beautifully, victory comes to the most persevering. Never to give up, have perseverance, endure, and have faith. And keep surrendering to the divine. And at the end, victory comes to the one who is ready to endure and who keeps persevering. Patiently he strives, and because he strives patiently and rightly, he conquers. And the other secret is what is given in the Gita and Savitri. Wherever there is Arjuna, wherever there is Krishna, there is victory. So the seeker must always remember that he whom he is seeking is also with him and within him. So the sought is already there. It is he who is making him seek himself. So if you remember it, and remember that, Mother spoke about these two paths, that if you follow the path of tapasya like a monkey, you are held by the mother monkey. You rather hold on to the mother monkey by your own effort. The day your effort fails, you fall and break your bones. But then when you go by the path of surrender, like the baby cat, that she holds you, then, well, she may shake you a lot, but you have to keep saying, "Ma, ma, ma." So these are the two paths. An ideal seeker has a beautiful combination of the two. He does his personal effort as part of his offering and consecration to the divine, but relies and depends on the surrender on the divine for the fulfillment of his sadhana. So in short, the difficulties do not become less, they become more at many levels, because after all, he is not here on an ordinary trail. Who faces more difficulty? The man who lives on level ground, whose movement of life is from his office to home, or somebody who wants to scale the Mount Everest. So spirituality is that. And yes, one must have the heroic spirit as well as the spirit of the child. The heroic spirit to face everything and with the will to mastery. And that, like a child, always full of wonder, always full of joy, who can laugh at the adversary, who can smile, and who knows that whatever path one may go, his mama is always there holding him. So, this is the ideal combination, the child soul and the heroic spirit, most suited. But the wise ones, I mean, true wisdom is okay. True wisdom is not as common. But the well read ones, the Pandits, that's where the difficulty lies. Because by reading books, sometimes we may think we know. But it is not by books that yoga is done. It is done in real time, through real challenges, outside as well as within. And it is in a spirit of sincerity, vigilance, humility, and surrender and patience that one can go through all the ordeals that are basically processes of purification in the path, and they are meant to only perfect our surrender. In a nutshell, yeah.